The theme, of course, like I said, is transparency. So every month we try to find a speaker from the community to share their story. And when it comes to transparency, I thought of a good friend of mine who's been working in the creative industry for quite a few years and is actually, working in this field, I guess you could say. So without further ado, Willem, I'm going to give it to you.
So I need your support to help me guide through this. I was about to call off this presentation. So I was waiting at the station, waiting for the train, and I had to speed walk home to go back to the toilet, and then I was scrolling. I felt like an ass. Of course, I was scrolling through all the attendees, and I recognized so many names, and I couldn't bear myself canceling the event, so I went back to the station. Bought myself a Coke. My co-founder Thomas bought me a new Coke, so this event is not sponsored by Coke, but thank you, Coke. And I feel good now, so thank you. I have a problem at parties. Ever since I started Home Run, and I'll tell you more about the company I founded that we're located here in TQ. Because everyone at parties asks, what do you do? And then I now have to say I run a business that makes and sells recruitment software. And I hated the guys that said that we're in the recruitment business. And that's a problem. It feels like the dark side is taking over the party and people want to walk away as far away as possible from me because I'm in the recruitment industry. And I'm meeting with people from Acquaint, hear about this. Yep. But it's horrible. And ever since I started studying, I founded a design magazine together with Homer's co-founder Thomas also, where we try to uncover the world of work. We started in the Netherlands out of a sheer enthusiasm for creativity in the Netherlands and started interviewing designers and agencies and brands about what goes on behind the scenes. And people liked that, and people started reading, and we started building an audience. From interviewing people about how they were thinking, or what their vision was on a specific subject, or just by showing them what it looks like to work at a company. We asked people to do a week off. And for example, we would ask Robert from TQ to document his week, what it's like to be the boss at TQ. You take a couple of pictures, you'll add a paragraph of text from Monday to Sunday to give you an impression of what it's like to work at TQ. That's what we do at Fontenelle. It's fun. It's Dutch, so yeah. That's our strength, to be honest. There are so many good platforms like It's Nice That or Freunde van Freunde that do something more internationally. We started as Dutch, and that's what we're good at. And apart from interviews, we also ask photographers to go into the workplaces and show them the office interiors, from artists to advertising agencies, graphic designers, and other graphic designers. And out of that, we also came to the conclusion that a lot of companies are really good at positioning themselves, but young creatives aren't as good as in positioning themselves. And so we help them. We select graduates from art academies every year. We select around 10 people and put them in the spotlight under the banner Dutch Design Talent 2016. They make beautiful work, and we help them get their work out there, and in hopes of getting work as a freelancer or getting a job at a company that they like. We even published a book about this, which was awesome to do, and I will never do again, to be honest. Everything that you learn in the startup, that you can iterate, that you can try something, put it out there in the world, and gather feedback and then improve it. You can't do that in a book. It's printed and it's there, and it won't change. And as a revenue model, because everything that we've been doing out of passion and we didn't make any money out of, we started a jobs board, which is called Fontenelle Jobs. And it's been 5 years ago, and it's been growing steadily, and it's going really good. And all these big agencies and also small agencies and brands and companies that are looking for project managers or designers or developers are posting jobs on their job boards. It's not really exciting. That was our first step into that dark world of recruitment. But what we saw was, this is like a basic version of a job, like a job ad on our jobs board. And we've been hiring these companies, we've been interviewing these companies. We've been invited to these companies. And although one advertising agency is totally different from the other, what we see here is the same. It's the same for every different company. And it didn't make sense. And we thought it was weird. It was even companies that are getting these amazing projects out there in the world. Beautiful campaigns or advertising campaigns where they translate a briefing to something that connects with an audience, and here they are trying to promote their own company, and what they do is collect a briefing. And it's weird because our generation, you guys here, will make up 75% of the workforce in less than 10 years. And what we're looking for is transparency and security, of course, but also a balance between work and life, and above all, purpose. We want to find purpose in what we do. We want to work with companies that have values that we can align with. But how can we see that we are aligned with companies if this is what they're telling what a job looks like? It doesn't say anything. So our conclusion was a job ad kind of hides the real job. And this is what's interesting. This is a job ad. We all know these. Like you used to look at a newspaper like an idiot, and then would circle jobs, and you wouldn't know what the job was, and you would call the company and go there for an interview, and you would start working at a company you didn't even know. But people at the time didn't care. They wanted security and nothing more. We as a generation, we want more. We want flexibility. So we're changing jobs so fast. It's faster than any other generation. So this is what a classic job ad looks like from the 90s. This is what a job ad looks like now. Essentially, it's kind of the same. Still those bullet points, and they use the bullet points because you have to pay for space. Every line more you have to pay for. So while the internet enables us to tell so much more richer stories than just this. So it reminded us more of a briefing for a commercial. Let's say Volkswagen makes a commercial. And this is what a briefing looks like if they would ask an advertising agency to try and sell them a car to a specific target audience. And then the advertising agency would make a commercial. You guys know this commercial? Who doesn't know this commercial? I'll try and see if I can click it, because then it might open up. Pretty cool, right? It's like, probably, I don't know if you guys are the audience, you probably are, but it says enough that the advertising agency built the briefing into the story. Wait. Probably for the commercial as well. I'll just close that. Sorry about that. So, it evokes emotion, it speaks to you, it speaks to a certain demographic and a certain target group, and the advertising agency learned how to do this. This wasn't the case 20 years ago. 20 years ago, advertising agencies would create like a newspaper ad with maybe a picture of a car, but then also stating all the cool features of the car, that it has a good mileage or good performance or whatever. And they started to understand that we, as we consume information differently, we are in charge of information. So instead of pushing out these ads, it's giving stories that you guys can like and share, etc. That's how storytelling works, and that's why it's so powerful. But the recruitment industry is still stuck in the 90s. We're still literally posting the briefing online and saying, screw you guys, I hope you have a nice imagination and you can figure out what it's like to work there. And that, for us, was a reason to start Roosmalen. And if you extend that line of thought, then it also means that we were also thinking, well, what do people tell about themselves when they apply for a job? It's a letter, mostly an email, saying I really want to work to your company, and then you send the same email and you replace the company's name into the other company. It's super impersonal. Well, we all know we really like our work. You raised out of bed early this morning to come here. That says something about how you value your work and how you like your work. But this is the motivational letter that you're writing. It's an email. It's also just stuck in the 90s. And I don't know how many people are on the other side of the table sometimes that have to review applications. Could we show some hands? Okay, cool. So I don't know about you guys, but it's horrible. Because you are sending out one email, but the other guys have to review hundreds of these emails. And they're all the same, they're all in different places. It's horrible to go through these applications. While if you think of it, it doesn't make sense because you're hiring someone to sit next to you 5 days a week for maybe 2, 3, 4 years. So it's a big deal. And the process, and we heard this from so many brand agencies, the process is dreadful and doesn't make sense, especially because talent these days, especially in the creative industry, talent is the #1 asset of a company. So why are these job ads, why don't they make sense? Why do these applications are so superficial? And why is the process of reviewing so boring and dreadful? Enter Roosmalen. I like that I hear some small laughs and stuff because we wanted to make the whole process light again. And it's the dog, his name is Ted. He's named after the illustrator, Ted Parker. Look him up, he's amazing. And the company's called Roosmalen because Roosmalen is, as a brand, is connected to sports. Sports is about passion, just like work is in sports is about teamwork and about performance, just like hiring people is. So we think job ads, like the ones you saw, should be and should act more like stories that are more authentic or personal, and in this case also transparent. Like with the playlist, with the company playlist, the music that's being played at the office. Or a job ad is an interview with the manager that's hiring someone in her team, and all that the job ad is an interview, an authentic, in her own tone of voice, interview about someone asking Sarah about what it is she's looking for in a new hire. And she can link to other articles that inspire her, she can link to a SoundCloud podcast. We can all use these rich media which are already available, aren't new, and use it to tell a richer story. And maybe if everyone here would see the job ad, 90% would think, "Ooh, that's not me. I don't believe in that vision," or "the company's too young, and I want to learn more," or whatever. But 10% will like it. They will apply with more passion and enthusiasm than if they would have seen the regular plain text job ad. And maybe out of the 90% that wouldn't, 50% would also have applied at the regular traditional job ad, and which makes nobody happy. You'll get a rejection, and the company has to go all the. So this whole job ad could say something about, this is the platforms that we're using, this is the languages that we're talking in, this is how we have connected stuff, this is what we're trying to do here, and this is the journey that we're taking on, come join us. And a designer or myself wouldn't know what to think of the job opening because it's not meant for me, that's okay. So that's a really powerful idea in tailoring stories to a target audience, which advertising has been doing for 10 years, and we think it's time for, let's say, the world of work to do as well. Coming back to the application, maybe sometimes you don't need a motivational letter if you're looking to hire a social media manager. Why don't ask him or her to describe yourself in 140 characters? These are all choices that you make. The choices are up to you as a company and as creatives to come up with ways of enabling applicants to tell their own personal rich story. And this is an example. You can also imagine maybe you have to leave behind a video if you are, let's say, hiring for a position as an office manager and you're the face of the company. And then talking about reviewing people, and I'll keep this part short. This is a big part of what we're doing as a company. The whole mess of different emails being forwarded and a separate Excel sheet where people say, I've declined this one and I've accepted her or invited her. And we heard stories that a company with two founders were in a scramble because one founder invited a candidate to an interview, and while the other one at the same time rejected the candidate and said, sorry, you're not fitted for this position. So it's weird. Like, talent is so important, and we're screwing up just by standing still and not thinking ahead. So our mission with Home Run, as it has been with Fontanelle, is to create a more transparent and open world of work. And with Fontanelle, it's in the niche of the Netherlands. With Home Run, it's more scalable. It's enabling companies worldwide to do this. We focus on the creative industry because that's where our passion lies and that's where our strength lies also. Well, we've got some challenges ahead. And I think the biggest one is, I can tell you this story about how companies should tell a great story, but some companies still don't have a great story to tell. And that's because these companies essentially also are stuck in the 90s. And for us, and in the bubble of startups and new generation companies, we often think that it's normal to have unlimited vacation days, or you don't have to work from 9 to 5, you can set your own hours. But it's not. And also not in the creative industry. And we see this through Fontanelle. It's amazing how many companies are still expecting you to be on time at 9:30, or you have to be there till 6, although you're finished at 4. Or sometimes work doesn't work and you want to get something out of your hands, but it doesn't come out of your hands, and then you're sitting there scrolling through Facebook like, again, an idiot. And you shouldn't. You should just go home, and maybe in the evening the idea pops up and it comes out in 5 minutes. And it's an example, but it's an important example of how companies should adapt to this new generation. It makes sense. And these are the buzzwords that say that connect with our generation, with millennials. And so sometimes it feels like the startups, like it's too much of a buzzword. So yeah, unlimited vacation days or gym membership, but it's really important. It doesn't matter which perks you choose, but it's important that you do this. So either if you're an employer, then think about this. If you're not already doing this, if you work at a company or work for a company that isn't doing this, inspire them with this, because it essentially is a battle for talent. And if you're not going along with this, if you don't have a story, then you'll lose the battle first. So these are essentials. The second challenge is, how do I tell a story? I think that's where you guys come in. And I'm not asking you to, well, it's where you come in because the world needs storytellers and content creators to help companies tell their story. We have some customers at home and they are design agencies and it's easy for them to tell a story. But there's so many companies out there who are really cool, who have a lot to show, but they don't know how. And it's super interesting to realize that there's a lot of stuff to share and a lot of stuff to create. And I think you guys can, it will open up a new market, so to speak. And we can change the image of the recruitment or the world of work into something that's evil and dark side. And we can try to shed light on in a way that makes it more interesting and more authentic and show the true images of companies, which are often really interesting and maybe have some little parties on the dark room. Because if we don't tell these stories, they'll always be untold and it's a lost battle and it will be a shame. So I hope you guys can take away that there's a lot to create, there's a lot of stories to tell, and I hope you guys, some of you will join us in the journey of helping companies tell a richer story and becoming a little bit more transparent. Thank you.